Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I made a review about my thoughts on Disney's recent animated movie, which is Raya and the Last Dragon. In short, I was not happy at all. And there's a couple movies I referenced to that I felt like were much better versions of what it had done in that movie. So now I thought I might, balance out the universe a little bit and actually talk about one of those. So I'm going to talk about Soul, which is, I believe, Pixar's latest animated movie that's currently released, at least. And I've really wanted to talk about this for a long time because this movie it's an absolutely wonderful movie. It's such a fun movie. There's so many good things about it. I can't sit here and say that everything's perfect, right? There's one major flaw that I have with the movie that I'll address in just a moment. But even with that in mind, I am confident in saying that Soul is one of my favorite animated movies I've seen in the last decade. And to really understand how I feel about this, I do have to reach back over the last 5 to 6 years because, Pixar and Disney, they've been on, a pretty quick run of releasing different animated movies. It's pretty well agreed upon that, Pixar is very loved for the movies that they make. Sometimes I fault both Disney and Pixar for making animations that just wouldn't fly as live action movies. And it's something that I actually talk to my friends and family about quite a bit. They're probably sick of hearing me talk about it, but it's this idea that everybody will absolutely love and rave about a Pixar movie that comes out. But the thing is I look at it in terms of a movie, not just an animated film, but a movie, right? And I find that most of those animated movies, if those same storylines and plots were to be put into a live action movie, just wouldn't hold up, and people would accuse it of being lazy and plotless and, poorly written. And, the lines are quippy and fun and stuff, but there's only a few animated movies in the last 10 years that I can think of that would have passed properly under a live action story. So to explain this a little better, we're going to use Zootopia. That's probably one of the more recent Disney animated movies that's come out over the last 5 or 6 years that I really, really enjoyed. Just a fantastic movie, very well done. And so what I'm trying to explain is I don't mean that, if you took a story of, a fox that walks around like a person and a bunny who walks around like a person into a live action, it wouldn't work. That's not what I mean. Obviously that wouldn't work, right? Discounting the fun little goofy gimmicks they have in animated stories and the characters they have, and it's kind of ignoring that. What I'm saying is if you took the plot, right, the core plot, if you could take that same storyline and put it into a live action movie, would it work? And more times than not, I found the answer is a very clear, undeniable no. A great example of that is The Good Dinosaur, which came out, I don't even know, I want to say that's like 2016 or something, and a lot of friends of mine really enjoyed that movie, and it had absolutely no plot. It just went with the punches, and they're like, but it was so cute, and the dinosaur and like the events that happened, and the way I see it, that just doesn't fly by me. If there was a movie that came out that did the same thing, everyone would be like, that was the most lifeless, purposeless movie that I just wasted 2 hours on. And I hold animated movies to the same standard as live action movies. You can't just make it look pretty and animated and suddenly let it pass, or else you could do the same thing with CGI. And that's obviously something people have made it clear they're not willing to let sacrifice over story in live action movies. And what I'm trying to say is Soul was so fun. Just about everything about it was absolutely beautiful. First off, I know it's a given to say that the animations in a Pixar movie are beautiful, but it's different here. It's a new level of beautiful, not because of the visual effects being realistic in the animation, but because the creativity of the animation is a whole new level. Up in the spirit realm that they have, the characters, like these wire characters that exist as kind of the leaders of the realm, are just so unique. It's so fun watching them interact, and it's adorable, and the little souls that they have running around is just the cutest thing, and like I just said, I'm not just a sucker for things being cute. They need to have a purpose, and everything in this movie does. The main character that they introduced, Joe Gardner, he is just so endearing, and everyone around him you just really care about. And something that really struck unique for me in this movie that hasn't in a lot of previous ones is the humor was great. I actually found myself laughing at a lot of the humor. And it's not that it's been bad in the previous Pixar movies over the last few years. It's just not really hit the spot. It's not really made me laugh. At best, they'll be like, be like a little smile. This one actually made me laugh out loud a few times, With that being said, it's not just a straight up comedy. There's a lot of good drama in it. And the music was one of the strongest compliments I can give to this movie. And I've heard a lot of people really raving about like the jazz side of the soundtrack written by John Bautista, who did a wonderful job. with it, and it's very classy. It's very artistic, and you enjoy watching them, just slap down on the keys with the music. It's a great soundtrack. But where I really have to compliment the soundtrack of this movie is also in terms of the secondary soundtrack artist on this film, which I believe, if I'm reading it right, is Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. If I'm right, I strongly believe that they're the ones who did the flip side of it, right? This is where the movie really impressed me, right? Because you had Joe Gardner on Earth, and he's got the jazz music playing. That's what the soundtrack's going for. And then you'd get up to the spirit realm, and suddenly it would jump into this whole techno music phase, and it was beautifully done. I'm a sucker for that kind of music, and the way that they were able to transition between two completely opposite kinds of soundtrack was stunning to me. It's still so great how they're able to do it. So while there's a bunch of people raving about John Batista's jazz playing in it, which is wonderfully done, to me it was how they were able to balance two completely opposite genres in a movie where it made sense. The emotional beats of this movie were also so good, and I don't like shoehorned emotional moments. Pixar has a tendency to do it because everyone watches a Pixar movie knowing there's got to be that emotional punch, and I just haven't felt it with most of the recent ones, with Onward and with Frozen 2 and Toy Story 4, and some of those were Disney animations, but I'm kind of referring to both in the same context here. Just none of them has worked for me, and the emotional punch of this movie, it's such a beautiful moment. Between beginning to end of this movie, there were so many good moments. There's only one moment, you could say, there's only one area of the movie that I felt that things had kind of fallen on its face, and that was the second act. So in the first act, we had a lot of good, quick introductory to characters, very fast, very efficient, very fun. The third act being a lot more emotional and having a lot of the emotional punch in it and a lot of the drama that you'd expect. Very, very well done. The second act had one major mistake, in my opinion, that the second it happened, I was like, no, not this. And it was the moment that both Joe and 22 fell back into the earthly dimension, but instead of falling into their own bodies, Joe fell into a cat's body and 22 fell into Joe's body. The second this started happening, I was really afraid it was going to derail the whole movie. And sadly, it did derail, in my opinion, a portion of it. The second act was just not exciting to me. It was incredibly rehashed. It was the definition of a plot pulled from the Pixar playbook, or virtually any animation playbook, no matter what company it's from. This cheesy concept of, how can we make this fun and goofy, and how can we make some fun, quick one-liners? Well, how funny would it be if we went ahead and put Joe into the cat's body and see how the cat reacts to that? And I did not enjoy that. The concept of it was very overdone. And it was such a sad thing to see the second half take such a dip, because everything else about this movie, my compliments to the strongest degree. Absolutely gorgeous. There was a solid 20 minutes or so where they're going around, 22's exploring what it's like to be in a body, and they do goofy stuff that, all the little kids are laughing in the theaters at, and all the adults are like, okay, we've seen it before, Joe Gardner flopping around in his body, and it's like, to me, that's just not really comedy. I'm not saying I knew how I would do it better, because 22 did need to discover her love and passion for Earth. So her coming to Earth was okay. It was the idea of Joe being stuck in a cat that just was super cheesy to me, and it didn't fly by properly with me. It was not a smooth transition. They do get out of that situation, within a pretty decent amount of time. They don't dwell on it. It's not the whole rest of the movie. And it's not even the main part of the movie, to be honest. It is the second act, so it's kind of the body of it. But it's where the movie really counts as the beginning and the end. My strongest beliefs are that if a movie can start really strong and end really strong on a perfect notes, then I'm always more capable of forgiving the middle. At the end of the day, slapping this into a ranking between 1 and 10, I'd be happy giving this a solid 8.5 out of 10. It was just a delightful movie. It's a movie that I truly enjoyed watching and went back and rewatched again. With that being said, it's not a perfect movie. There are flaws with it, and it's one that I'll probably watch every several years. It's not a classic. It's not something that I'll find myself watching every year or every few months just to study and to enjoy. That's it for today, though, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, we are on our track to 1,000 subscribers, so I'm posting a video every single day up until I get 1,000 subscribers. If you guys are able to do it by June 1st, then I will be purchasing and unboxing Hasbro's most biggest Transformer they've ever released in the history of Transformers that they just came out with. So make sure to subscribe. It does me such a big favor. I am currently working a full-time job. I'm currently super busy with second jobs and with family life, and I do this because I love it, because I love you guys. So please make sure to show your support, and I'd really appreciate it. Alrighty, that's it for today. Later, guys.